Welcome to Erik Penser Bank. Today I have the great pleasure to interview Claus Elsborg Olesen, CEO of Initiator Pharma, and this follows the positive top-line data reported today from the phase 2b study with pudafensine in ED patients. Very welcome, Claus.
Thank you very much, Claus.
Could you just start to remind us about the trial and the data you reported this morning?
Yes, I'll be happy to. So the trial that we are just reporting on now is the phase 2b study in patients that suffer from erectile dysfunction but otherwise are healthy. The patient that has been included in the study are what we call the moderate to the severe ED patients. So this is the patient segment we want to go for. We want to go for the difficult ones to treat, so we actually can get a positioning that is separate to the currently approved therapies on the market. The study itself is a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study where we study efficacy and safety at a low and a high dose of pudafensine or IP 2015. And also with a placebo cohort. So this is what we do in the study. It's a repeat dosing study, meaning that all the patients, they will come in and they will receive 4 independent doses once per week, and then we'll do an assessment of the patients after each visit to the clinic. And here at the visits, we will follow up with the EEIF 15 score. It's a domain score looking at erectile dysfunction, where there's a number of questions relating to specifics on the physical ability to get an erection and complete an intercourse, but also to other improvements in the intercourse setting. And this is the study we have completed now and that we have reported on today.
Mm-hmm. You have recruited 130 patients. Have it been challenging to have them staying on treatment and follow the protocol?
It's not been that difficult to get the patients to coming back. Of course, there's always a few that is in and out of these studies as one would expect. But we actually saw a lot easier to recruit this study than we actually had with our previous study in IP 2018, where the segment of patients were very different from this one. We actually saw when we finally learned how to recruit, and meaning recruit how we could advertise in commercials across pubs and billboards in the UK, we actually got a lot of patients calling in and wanting to take part of this study. So actually, I think that the study has run fairly along to the timelines we have. Of course, there has been a few hiccups along the way as COVID has resurfaced a few times, and there's also been some strikes in the UK that sometimes made it difficult for patients to catch trains and so on to get into the clinic. But overall, we are very satisfied with the conduct of the study.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you have seen a clinical meaningful result, and if you just walk through what the result, the primary and secondary endpoints, and now how it looks like.
Yeah, so you can say, so looking at the primary endpoints, we're looking in the EIF score. We can see that we have an overall improvement. And we can also see that there's a strong improvement on some of the key questions. So can you get an erection? And that is question 3 and 4. And there's can you get an erection and you can sustain it throughout the intercourse, where we see statistical significance on question 1, which can you actually get can you penetrate during an intercourse? And this is, of course, something that is really vital for these patients going forward. And then it's really nice to see that we also get readouts on some of the secondary endpoints. Not all of them come out statistically significant, but we see a clear trend throughout the whole study. And we are actually really happy with all the different measurements we have done, seeing that this is actually really supporting our ambition to develop a new therapy for the patients that do not respond or who cannot tolerate the current approved therapies. And in addition to that, I think that it's often underestimated how important safety is. Mm-hmm. We cannot develop a drug for this kind of indication that gives us safety concerns. So when we look at the dosing that we have administered, so the low dose, mm-hmm. we actually see a profile of adverse events. None of them are critical, so they're only of mild and moderate, but they are equal or comparable. You cannot say equal, but they're comparable to what we see in the placebo group. So you can say that the drug by itself is not inducing any of these events that we will not see in the normal placebo group. So it again demonstrates that we have pudafensine is a very safe and tolerable drug that we can use. And then, of course, one thing is that you see that it's safe, but we also see in the low dose, we actually see that we reach the endpoints that we have talked about, the p-values in this study. And this is really good, not only for this study, where you can say that we are looking for the men who do not tolerate or who not respond to currently approved therapies, but also in the recent announcement that pudafensine also has shown effect in female sexual dysfunction in the animal models. Again, here in this indication, side effects are not acceptable. So simply again, we are having data now supporting that the ED effects in the clinic. We see that there's a profile that is really attractive for the men taking this product, but we can also transfer this, safety profile to the other indications that we want to pursue with pudafensine. So it's a really exciting day to see both efficacy, but also getting this really, really nice safety and tolerability profile of pudafensine.
Yeah, sounds very good and promising indeed. I asked, this was the top line data you reported so far. I mean, should we expect you to report some further details from the study going forward?
What we will do now is, of course, this is a lot of patients, and there's of course a lot of data that is we still have the full overview. We are a public company, so we need to, of course, release data when we get it, and this is what we have done. We will start looking into the data, just like we're looking into the data of IP 2018, and we will come back to the market when we think there's additional things to add, and also when we think that it's an advantage to us. Going forward, making sure that we don't miss any opportunities here. So we don't want to make sure we can, have full IP coverage for everything we do, and also that going forward. That said, of course, we want to go on the road and start showing this data. We have a lot of pharma companies that have waited to see some of these data coming in, but also very much in the segment of the clinic. There's a lot of KOLs, so key opinion leaders out there who has been following this program with interest, and they play, of course, a really important role to us because they will be part of the sounding board of the data that we're getting out. So we look forward to present this data at one of the larger sexual health conferences, and there's one in the spring next year in Italy that we probably going to participate in and get present it to the key opinion leaders and the clinicians that is going to use this drug ultimately when we get it approved for the treatment of a patient.
Okay. Great. And I mean, with a positive readout now from the phase 2b trial, if you just could describe what you believe is needed when it comes to clinical studies to reach an approval for pudafensine in ED.
Yeah, so you can say that before this can be approved in this segment, you need to conduct a phase 3 study. We are discussing, of course, to have a follow-up with the regulatory authorities after the phase 2b data to make sure that the plan that we are presenting to partners is still very valid. And normally you would need to recruit in 1,500 patients spread across a minimum 2 phase 3 trials. But this is something that with the data we have now can be discussed with the regulatory authorities. But in parallel, we would also very much like to engage with the partners or potential future partners of this to make sure that we also get a buy-in from them in what they want to do. So I think that we are looking into finding a partner because it is a large phase 3 study. And I think that with the data that we have generated now, we have been, ever since we did the phase 1, the safety, we have been successful going into the phase 2A. In the severe patients, we were successful. And now we are once again delivered statistical significant clinical relevant efficacy data in such a trial. And that makes us believe that this is actually something that will create a lot of value for the company and our shareholders in a deal setting with the future pharma companies and partners taking this forward.
Really impressive achievement indeed. I just want my final question would be to look at the company as a whole, and if you could give us an overview, what's going on in your other clinical programs.
So you can say we completed in 2018 IP 2018 compound. We completed the phase 2A with the clinical significant endpoints this summer. So that is for the psychogenic ED population, so the one that suffers from low mood, depressions, or taking antidepressants on top. So we're still looking into the data that we got and seeing what we can learn here, and then we are presenting this to interested parties and also to clinicians to discuss the utility and how to position this best. And that effort will continue going forward in parallel now with the results from 2015. Then we also have the data that we released that we will look at the female sexual dysfunction, where we saw that in the animal experiments, we actually saw really nice results, again, demonstrating that this compound, IP2015, could actually work in sexual dysfunction as well for females. And we believe that this is something that we will continue to evaluate and discuss with potential partners and also with clinicians on how to do and how to develop this best in the future. In parallel to that, we, of course, you can say that the pudafensine also, we used that in a healthy volunteer pain challenge study, where we showed that it actually had good efficacy. And you can say that data is actually supporting both the ED advances that we are making now, but it's also very much supportive of the female sexual dysfunction, where pain also has an influence. So you can say these are all data supporting the utility of pudafensine going forward. Then we have our two preclinical assets, IP2016 and 17, that we're still evaluating how to best take forward. And we'll get back when we have more information on that to the market and to the shareholders.
Okay. Thank you so much, Claus, and a huge congratulations for the positive data today.
Thank you very much. It will be a very nice Friday to look upon. Thank you, Claus.